Hello and welcome to this abomination of a video. Yes, this is late and yeah, I'm sorry about that. So yeah, I'm just gonna continue on and act like everything's fine. So this video is all about DID, dissociative identity disorder, what it is, and like what causes it, and I'll be going really in depth into this. I literally have 2 pages of notes, and it's a lot, and I'm very tired, so let's do it. First of all, what exactly is DID? According to the DSM-5, American Psychiatric Association, 2013, dissociative identity disorder, or DID, is described as a disruption of identity characterized by 2 or more distinct personality states, or an experience of possession a client may observe. And you know, I'm gonna be quite honest with you. Yes, the DSM-5 description is the official, quote-unquote, description for the disorder. However, because I'm stupid, it makes no sense to me, and it sounds like nonsense. So I found a better, more concise version that actually explains it in simpler terms. DID is a dissociative disorder. Dissociative disorders are mental health illnesses that involve disruptions or breakdowns of memory, consciousness or awareness, identity and or perception, mental functions that normally work smoothly. When one or more of these functions get damaged or disrupted, then dissociative symptoms can result. And DID is one of these dissociative disorders, because believe it or not, there's more than one. Also, from here on out, I'll be using different terminology that's more widely accepted. For example, people would say like, oh, different personalities when talking about DID. However, it's more accepted to say alters. An alter refers to the alternate identities or dissociated parts, and a system refers to the whole group of alters that live within one singular body. Now, of course, there's a lot more terminology, as we are soon going to get into. However, I will try my best to briefly explain them, because I don't have the time, and there's a lot. But like, I mean, I could have just not done like hours of research into the different types of alters that are out there, but like, where is the fun in that? So let's go on to some terminology now. A trigger that a cue that causes traumatic memories to resurface. We will get into why this is important later, I swear. Switching, another terminology. Switching is changing between alters. A switch is normally quite a drawn-out process, which can be very mentally exhausting to do continually. So, you know in media how when they portray DID, it's like very quick and very sudden. Yeah, that's like a bunch of bullshit, because that's not what it is. It's very... It doesn't look very exciting. It just looks like they're just staring off into space. But a lot is going on inside of the system's like minds, because they're basically trying to take control of the host body. We'll get into what a host is later, don't worry. Yeah, also, future me, quick word of warning, do your job and put in text in the video to make this easier for people. Please. I know you're tired, but please, do your job. Okay. So, next. What exactly are alters? I mean, we've already discussed that an alter is basically an alternate identity, but like, how? Well, alters have many, many different characteristics. They are quite literally different people, different ages, perception, by the way, a very important note here. Alters will have a different perception of who they are. So like, for example, you may have a child alter, however, the host body is that of like a 90-year-old person. So the alter believes that they're like either like a different age or a different gender, but the host body does not correspond with that, if that makes any sense. We'll also get into that. There's a lot. Yeah, it's gonna get a bit confusing, but stay with me here. So the many different characteristics, different ages, a different gender to the physical body that they reside in, different names, or even no name, different roles or functions, we'll get into this later, either related to daily life or to trauma, different attitudes and preferences, like a preference in food or dress code, or like a different perception of their appearance. For example, like the perception of what their hair is, or skin color, or body shape. They may possess different memories. For example, some alters may remember trauma better than others, or have different like events in daily lives that others may have amnesia for. Psychobiological differences to others, for example, different visions, medication responses, allergies, plasma glucose levels in diabetic patients, heart rate, blood pressure readings. It's basically they're very, very different from one another. It's almost frightening and extremely intriguing how different alters can be different to one another. Like, while researching this, I didn't even realize that there could be psychobiological differences between the two. Between like the alters, which is very fascinating and wow. So yeah. Next we'll go into terminology. However, it is also quite important to know firstly that all alters can be classed as either apparent normal parts of the personality, ANPs, or emotional parts of the personality, EPs. In addition, each can have one or more type or role. For example, a child alter may also be a protector. People who are very fragmented may also have complex mixtures of ANPs or EPs. The host. What is a host? A host is the main alter, the main identity of the system. They manage everyday life, and they normally don't hold traumatic memories. What exactly is an EP, however? EP emotional parts hold traumatic memories, being stuck in a sensory experience of a memory, and they are very often, sometimes, unaware of the passage of times. All identities within the system can be categorized as ANPs or EPs, and it's very important to know that a alter who is an EP doesn't have to be very emotional to be classed as an EP. Now we'll be getting into the different types of alters. I will not be going through every single type of alter that there is, because that would take an extremely long time, take up a lot of effort, and it can get very confusing. So I don't want to do that. So we're just gonna go through the main important alters. So first of all, we have child alters, or littles as they are sometimes called. They are quite common, and several can exist in most people with DID. They often talk in a childlike fashion. However, they can normally understand abstract concepts or long words. Littles often hold memories of child abuse. Many have speech or the perception of the appearance of a young child. Some of these alters may age as the physical host body grows, or they remain the same age. Some hold feelings of terror and pain of their memories, while others are quite playful and lively, only having positive memories. This is not to be confused with the inner child. That applies to not people with no DID, for to have an inner child, being very lively and stuff. This is different. Next, we have opposite sex alters. Some alters have different gender to that of the body. These alters usually are more like a young girl's idea of how a boy would be an actual boy, or a young boy's idea of how a girl would be, making them have personality traits that are associated with the gender of the opposite sex. Basically, it's basically a perception how the opposite gender will work, if that makes any sense. Girl or female alters may be fearful, frightened, and males may be very angry, feel physically strong, or be very brave. These opposite sex alters may have come along due to sexual abuse. For example, a male alter doesn't have a vagina, so it doesn't fear vaginal rape. And female alters may be created because an alter was forced to take on a feminine role in sex with their abuser. Next, we have protectors. These kinds of alters are very common, and there are 3 types. There's the fight types, persecutor, and the caretakers. Fight types and persecutors are a type of EP and have defensive intentions, and also caretakers. They are there to protect the system. I will be going specifically into persecutors and caretakers for the interest of time, really. A persecutor, they act in a harmful way, but for protection purposes. They often have a distorted view of reality and may disrupt therapy or intentionally injure the host body. For example, punish child alters for disclosing secret abuse. They are often seen as misguided protectors, as you often wouldn't want or shouldn't be being extremely harmful towards these alters. They are seen as misguided, and they can be negotiated with. Another type of protector are caretakers. They help manage and care for other alters and external people, for example, children. They are often very motherly and may perhaps be modeled after a real person that the system knows. They often lack awareness of self-care and are exhausted easily. They are a limited role and so have little capacity for play, exploration, or socializing, really. And the final type of alter that we'll be going through are sexual alters. They are created to handle sexual abuse and to keep the knowledge far away from the other parts. They can be handled differently. Alters abuse from men and boys, and other alters may be created to take the abuse away from women or the girl alters. Again, it's important to stress that you can have many different types of the same alters. So, for example, you can have many different types of opposite sex alters, who can also be caretakers or child alters. It's very complicated and complex simply because DID works differently for every single system. So it's kind of difficult to like generalize a little bit, but because of how complicated it is and how it affects each system very differently. And finally, we are going to go on to what exactly causes DID. Now, there are many reasons for why DID happens, but the most notable and the most wide reason is the history of trauma that is very common with most people with DID. And it's most easier developed in childhood, where the personality is still taking form, but it can happen probably at any stage, but it's a little more likely to happen at a young stage. Around 90% of cases of people systems with DID involves some history of abuse, be it severely emotional, physical, and or sexual. It can also be linked to accidents, natural disasters, and war. Basically, an event in time that causes a person devastating psychological damage. And that's it. That is all that I have. There is a lot more about DID. This is not everything, because if I did try and explain everything, we would be here for a lot longer, and this video is already so long. So yeah. So thank you for watching. Goodbye, I guess.